Good day, everyone. I'm Roro, and welcome to our session on the topic of personal data protection in the realm of cross-border data transfers. Joining me is Anantyo, and together we will explore how strategizing cross-border transfers can serve as a powerful business enabler. Of course, we're excited to share insights and practical tips that can help you navigate the challenges and opportunities in this critical area. Today, keeping personal data safe is really important as businesses deal with the complexities of the global economy. So, Anantyo, first question. How are businesses, particularly in Indonesia, addressing the challenges and necessities of cross-border data transfer, and why is the governance of this process so crucial?
Cross-border data transfer is often conducted by companies worldwide, including those in Indonesia, as it serves as an operational necessity for many businesses. The importance of its governance primarily lies in mitigating violations towards personal data protection provision, which encompass the fulfillment of personal data subject rights. Furthermore, the importance of governing cross-border data transfer is further affected by strict limitation and specific requirements established by the Personal Data Protection Law.
Well, you mentioned a specific requirement for conducting cross-border data transfer. Could you elaborate on how the current personal data protection regulation addresses these requirements?
The Personal Data Protection Law outlines 3 levels for cross-border data transfer. First, equal or higher protection. Second, adequate and binding protection. And third, consent from the data subject. If the first 2 levels aren't met, transfer can still proceed with consent, provided certain conditions are met. From our experience, most cross-border data transfer rely on adequate and binding protection. However, Indonesia hasn't yet established a data protection authority, which is crucial for approving binding corporate rules and standard contractual clauses for lawful cross-border data transfer.
I see. Thank you for clarifying. So, given the current condition, in your view, how do businesses navigate the need for approval from the Data Protection Authority for cross-border data transfers?
Thanks, Roro. In the perspective of the existing personal data protection regulation in Indonesia, instruments under the requirement of adequate and binding personal data protection must be approved by the Data Protection Authority. However, in the case of a foreign company conducting the transfer and an Indonesian company being the recipient, approval from the Data Protection Authority is not required. Companies within the European Economic Area will be benefited, as the provisions of the General Data Protection Regulation are similar to the Indonesian Personal Data Protection Law. The compatibility facilitates smoother cross-border data transfer and compliance processes, allowing European companies to operate more efficiently towards the Indonesian market.
Well, that's actually a very interesting point. How about in Indonesia? How are businesses managing cross-border data transfers given the current absence of a designated personal data protection authority?
Currently, in the absence of designated authority for personal data protection, cross-border data transfer cannot be based on the principle of equal or higher levels of personal data protection, as this determination requires specific criteria set out by a governing body. As a result, companies have been primarily relying on adequate and binding personal data protection measure, even though the instrument related to this requirement still need approval from the relevant authority. Standard contractual clauses and binding corporate rules tend to comply with existing personal data protection provisions. Although consent can be an option, there are limitations that may affect business needs, such as not being able to conduct recurring cross-border data transfer.
Thank you, Anantyo, for the comprehensive explanation and insights. So, to close our session, thank you for your time, and I hope we can have another opportunity to discuss this further. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned to our social media platforms. If you'd like to explore our legal services, please visit pwc.com/id.